For as long as there have been Destiny and Destiny 2 expansions, those expansions have followed a specific formula. The add-ons have always been standalone offerings, dropping players into a new story more or less independent of what came before. Each included a pile of new content and a fresh story campaign, but they were less like subsequent chapters for a living game than semi-discrete new modules bolted onto an existing, sprawling whole. The Witch Queen changes all that. Rather than connecting something new and separate onto Destiny 2 with no context, it instead is an organic, evolutionary outgrowth. This is Bungie's live game molting, emerging from a cocoon as something better, smarter, and more complete than it was before. Back when it was first discussing the Witch Queen, Bungie called the expansion's new story the definitive Destiny campaign. Despite being marketing speak, that statement has turned out to be true. Destiny expansions are largely built on multi-mission story offerings, but the Witch Queen's campaign stands alone among its predecessors. It is, without exaggeration, the best campaign Bungie has released for the game, eclipsing even the most loved releases of the past.
But that's impossible. That's an Ahamkara. What?
This is what people like about Destiny, boiled down into approachable missions you can play alone or with friends. Destiny campaigns lean toward the simple end of the spectrum, giving players an on-ramp into the more complex offerings that really define the game. It's 6-player raids and 3-player dungeons. The problem with this approach has always been that while early parts of any given Destiny 2 expansion feel good thanks to its excellent shooter mechanics, they don't really make clear what it is that makes the game good. Destiny 2 has really been defined by its raids, which are full of brilliant mechanics that require teams to learn the rules, establish roles, communicate intentions, and work closely together. You don't really get a sense of what's great about Destiny 2 until you play its best content, which has always been the high-level stuff that can be tough to get to. The Witch Queen upends that, clearly taking cues from high-level content to bring those same feelings and experiences to its story. Fights aren't just big arenas with bullet sponges that need to be chipped away at. They're fast-moving situations full of combatants that often have you working your brain to solve a puzzle or develop a strategy while you're identifying targets and prioritizing threats. One fight has you running from a boss who's immune to your attacks and who's chasing you through a darkened maze. Your job is to find and destroy the hidden crystals powering the boss's shield, but they're nestled off in dark corners guarded by smaller foes. It's also almost impossible to see where you're going, but you can shoot glowing orange pustules sticking out of the walls to spray light-up goo all over the ground. So you're running from a huge monster, blasting his minions, hunting the objects that can allow you to hurt him, and trying to light your way through a maze. Levels drip-feed you new mechanics and ideas along the way so that it all comes together in the boss fight. And coupled with Destiny 2's already excellent combat foundation, it makes for an intensely fast-paced, hectic experience. The campaign is filled with these standout moments, with excellent level and arena design throughout, and each mission feeling significantly different from the others. Along with great levels, though, Bungie has also brought a slate of helpful quality of life improvements like extra checkpoints and the new Major Encounters approach. Major Encounters are big fights with a clear start and end point, where you can refill all your ammo beforehand so you're prepped for what's coming, and where you get a big pile of rewards at the end. Each of these arenas feels like an important event, one that will challenge your abilities and give you a big feeling of accomplishment once you've bested it. That's especially true when playing the story campaign on the new Legendary difficulty, which is a phenomenal addition to the overall package. With it, Bungie acknowledged that veteran players have the weapons and experience for a significantly tougher fight, and the Legendary campaign obliges beautifully. It keeps player power levels beneath the recommended maximums while adding a few key modifiers and other tweaks, raising the stakes by making everything just that much more lethal. The tactical consideration of protecting yourself and taking down important targets before they can seriously threaten you adds a perfect amount of extra challenge that is consistently, exquisitely harrowing. That high-intensity threat feeling is amplified further by the inclusion of a major new enemy in the Hive lightbearers, mini-boss-like foes who show up at key moments and in major encounters. These new enemies wield the same space magic superpowers as players, invoking a sort of middle ground between playing against computer-controlled enemies and playing against other humans in the competitive portion of Destiny 2. Whenever lightbearers show up, they demand you alter your strategy, lest you be annihilated by a burst of lightning or cut in half by a flying Captain America-like shield. They further shift the usual Destiny 2 paradigm in interesting ways, elevating combat whenever they're around. The story of the Witch Queen is among the better ones Destiny 2 has told, largely because it's not a standalone addition to the game that came out of nowhere, but the culmination of years of storytelling, and particularly the last 4 seasonal stories that appeared in the game in 2021. Since before the release of the Beyond Light expansion, the trajectory of Destiny 2's world has been altered by the gravity of Savathun, an eons-old godlike alien whose MO is manipulation through lies and deceit. After literal years of Destiny 2 players seeing Savathun's influence showing up all over, the Witch Queen finally brings her plans to fruition. It's a pretty good story, all things considered, one that is conscious of players investing in the game not just for the last year, but at least since the release of Destiny 2 in 2017. It makes use of key elements of Destiny 2's deep lore, bringing some of the strangest and most interesting aspects of the universe to the forefront, and recontextualizing things we thought were settled about the story, shaking some of the game's characters to their cores. After more than a year of build-up to this exact moment, the Witch Queen does a satisfying job of tying together threads Destiny has been weaving for a long time. It's also great at dropping intriguing clues about the future that keep you invested. The struggle of Destiny 2's story and its expansions is that so much of the context needed to make sense of it exists in lore passages dropped as flavor text on the weapons you find or in special lore books you unlock. It has long been a problem with the game that its best stories tend to not happen in the game you're actually playing. Bungie has gotten a lot better about this in the last few years, and the Witch Queen is probably the best job it has ever done of mixing its great lore ideas with the actual player experience. But it still struggles with the fact that it's trying to convey complex in-universe concepts to all players, from those who've read all the lore to the brand new folks just jumping into the game for the first time.
Where host went, I went. Long for those days.
I no more, Parasite. We seek information regarding humanity's collapse.
Although it certainly tries, the Witch Queen can't quite thread that needle. It compromises the complex stuff in attempts to make things clearer for players who haven't been in the game long enough to establish context. By doing that, it undercuts the impact of some elements for those who've been around the whole time. Meanwhile, even the simplified story isn't simple enough to carry new players through, so the compromises end up weakening the story for both audiences. While this chapter makes clearer sense than some past ones have, it's still best enjoyed by people who have a firm grasp on Destiny's long-term story and lore, and even then, it has its confusing spots. Still, there's a lot of great story being told here, and a ton of ways to find it. Following the campaign, there's a whole host of things to do in the expansion's new destination, Savathun's Throne World, which is full of secrets to uncover, additional missions to play, and weapons to earn. The Witch Queen also adds a weapon crafting system that provides a whole new element to the usual loot chase that defines Destiny 2. Making exactly what you want out of your arsenal feels like it's paying off your investments, and it's a great addition to the underlying formula. The system generally feels a bit too grindy in its earliest iteration, but Bungie has already announced plans to make adjustments to alleviate that issue. There are a few more changes to Destiny 2 with the Witch Queen that elevate the game, like adjustments to the Void player subclasses that offer a whole lot more freedom to make loadouts, and tweaks to the Gambit activity that make it more competitive. Those tweaks also feel like Destiny 2 continuing to evolve, as Bungie hones it to its best possible version. Along with the additional story offerings and gear, the Witch Queen adds a new raid to Destiny 2 called Vow of the Disciple. Destiny raids have long been impressive affairs in game design and art direction, providing some incredible multiplayer shooter gameplay. Vow continues that tradition, a fitting next-level cap to a brilliant expansion that continues to add a lot more to Destiny 2's world. Its mechanics borrow a bit from past raids in ways that plays into its overall themes, giving it a more familiar feel than some of Bungie's other offerings. Our Day 1 raid attempt also suffered a bit, thanks to a few bugs during boss fights that could slam a solid run to a halt. But these mostly minor frustrations haven't marred another extremely fun, high-intensity multiplayer experience in Vow of the Disciple.
Go guys, go, we got this.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh my god, he's dead.
I can't believe we get it, dude.
Holy god.
The Witch Queen has been extremely impressive and a ton of fun. The centerpiece is the laudable story campaign, making a lot of the game's best design more approachable for a variety of players. But the expansion also invokes the best parts of Destiny's past as well. The Witch Queen is a massive step forward for the game and the culmination of a recent history of great refinements and additions, resulting in a Destiny 2 that's in its best form yet.
The defiant, subjugated, not for pleasure, glory, but in service of an ailing